What's happening, YouTube? This is your girl Megan. Welcome back to the Hood Astro Queen, to all of my returning subscribers. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, be a part of the family. It's free 99. You know you want to. So with that being said, as you can see, today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a mashup of the hot topics or trending topics that have hit the media lately. Just because I did my due diligence and I thought that there were some very interesting astrological components that correlate with the situation. And, I just wanted to share those with you guys and just unpack a few things. So first up, we got Miss Toni Braxton. Okay. She stirred up some controversy after doing an interview in which she revealed that she secretly regrets not really turning up and being a bit more carefree in her 20s and 30s. It sounded like she skipped her whole phase, and this is just what I deduced from it. But she was saying that her religion, because she did grow up in a very religious family, restricted her from engaging in a lot of these things, these carefree activities, these maybe risky hot girl-esque activities that a lot of people do engage in their 20s and 30s and that type of thing. Toni Braxton is now, I believe, 52. She looks really good for her age. She's aged gracefully. She is drop dead gorgeous. I love her. But, like I said, just my takeaway from the whole interview was that she probably skipped her whole phase, and now she's at a point in her life where she really does want to engage in some of these things. But she did say, at my age is not a good look, which, personally, I disagree with. I feel like, the day it's too late is the day that you die. So, I mean, whether you're 22, 52, 62, do what the fuck you want to do. However, I just wanted to get into some of her natal chart and unpack some of the factors, astrological factors that can contribute to her feeling this way, and just unpacking some factors that could support just her overall personality profile and perhaps why she ended up in this situation. Okay. So Miss Toni Braxton was born October 7th, 1967. That number 7 deals with her being in the music industry, or her being like artistically talented, right? Her being a songstress. But you also see that number 7 in the charts of people who are like models and things like that, or even women who really like makeup and all that good stuff. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But also, this could create a person who has a very difficult time understanding who they are. So as it pertains to, the particular confession that she had, these are people where they can have a very non-fixed sense of self. And her sun is actually at the 13th degree of Libra. And with her being a Libra, Libras are also one of those signs that are known for being very much centered around other people. I mean, Libra literally is the sign of other people. And I noticed that a lot of dark-sided Libras have the tendency to want to placate to other people's feelings or other people's thoughts and ideas as opposed to their own. They can spend a lot of time worrying and being focused on other people as opposed to their own. Libra is also the sign of accommodation and efforts to keep the peace and efforts to be more agreeable and work with others. A lot of times their own personal needs get pushed to the background, or they learn how to identify with the needs of others over their own. And this is also reinforced with her sun being at that 13th degree, because the number 13 breaks down to 4, and the number 4 deals with collectives. And these are people who are more susceptible to groupthink and also being followers too. In addition to Libras can be followers. Dark-sided Libras can. I mean, Libra is essentially one of the signs of like people who like to keep up with the times, people who like to remain current and relevant. And as it pertains to Toni Braxton, I think that this absolutely can influence how she feels in terms of maybe she's looking around, maybe she's looking at the WAP culture, maybe she's looking at the whole liberation movement, and she's like, damn, I want in on that, but it may not be a good look at 52. You know what I mean? Or maybe she's looking around at certain things and she's like, wow, I want to keep up. I want to be a part of these things. But of course, she could have a lot of apprehension about it. But I also wanted to point out that Toni Braxton is also a Libra South Node. So having her sun in the same sign as that Libra South Node can make it incredibly difficult for her to really be her own person. Right. So these are people who can be people pleasers, pushovers, like I said, quintessential peacekeepers, and just very dependent on other people, right? Or overly reliant and placing a lot of value on what other people think. So that could even deal with her being nervous to come out and to act on these impulses, or her to be like, well, at this age, it's not a good look, right? Instead of just actually doing it. Because if you want to be honest, with her being an Aries North Node in this lifetime, she is supposed to be someone who goes with her instincts, who follows her instincts regardless as to how other people feel about it, her family included. And I don't know if you guys watch the Braxton family. This tendency that she has to be the peacemaker and the person who's always like the liaison between the family, the family counselor and all that. This is documented. This is a well-documented kind of behavior and pattern and role that she's played within the family, to the point where she has also made it very clear in the past that I resent my family and I resent having to do this or be this and whatever the case may be. If I did not have to look out for other people, if I didn't have to worry about other people, I probably would be a different person. I would have made different decisions. So that is her really struggling to balance out those energies in terms of that Libra South Node energy and that Aries North Node energy. If she was acting on that Aries North Node, she would be someone who is selfish and who puts herself first and her own needs. That Aries energy also correlates with her being a very sexual person. And she has other components in her chart that support that, in addition to, or especially, that her Mars is at the 18th degree of Sagittarius. So her being someone who is naturally a very sexual person, despite kind of I don't know, because she kind of does give off this, I would say maybe it's like a cookie cutter image in certain respects, but she has also made it very clear that like a lot of her repression of these things have a lot to do with her family and her even religion. So you can even look at that Mars at the 18th degree of Sagittarius as that religious influence. She's also a Sagittarius moon. Okay, Sag moons are very vibrant. I would even say wild child. These are people who have to, it's very crucial for these people to undergo, I would say more important than like a Sagittarius sun, to undergo a phase of just being unrestricted. And these are people where, you might tend to find that as they get older, they can get into religion, or they can find a certain moral code or spiritual code that helps them kind of keep their wild side in check. But to have grown up from a very early age suppressing that, it can be incredibly unhealthy. Sagittarius moons and Mars are some of the most promiscuous. They can be some of the most promiscuous and just, I would even say like experimental and sexually fluid and adventurous signs or sign placements, And so, yeah, that's just kind of unfortunate to see that she had to restrict that. And you can also see this restriction reflected in the fact that her Mars is actually squaring her Pluto at the 21st degree of Virgo. So you can even look at that as her being trapped, like a lot of that carefree energy and a lot of that expansiveness when it comes to her freedom, right? Because you can look at that Sagittarius energy as freedom, being kneecapped by feeling like she has to succumb to etiquette or perform a certain way or appear a certain way. It could deal with her being someone who has a lot of responsibilities, especially in terms of like employing people. Her moon is also squaring her Venus at the 2nd degree of Virgo. So that is something else that could even deal with her, like having her family work for her, which everybody knows that her sisters work background. They were background singers for her. So her being riddled with all of these responsibilities and her feeling like she has to keep a certain level of decorum and etiquette and respectability and control, self-control. Those are things that definitely negatively impacted her ability to tap into these energies. But nonetheless, getting back on track with this Aries North Node, right? In this lifetime, Toni Braxton is supposed to be someone who has learned to cultivate her own sense of individuality, learning how to stand alone and stand apart from the people around her. I would even say her sisters included. And I guess you could argue to a certain degree she's done that, given that she and her sisters actually had a group growing up. They were kind of like the female version of the Jackson 5, and Toni was the chosen one by the record exec. So her being a breakout star on her own could definitely deal with her being thrusted or propelled into that Aries energy. But unfortunately for her, with her also having her sun in that same sign as that Libra South node, it deals with where, like I said, a lot of times in her life, she's going to grapple and feel some type of internal conflict with the fact that either she was a chosen one, which I think she even admitted that herself. Like, she kind of felt guilty and felt responsible for other people type of thing. And it just seems like she's, for the most part, in my opinion, she's kind of succumbed to that Libra South Node energy. And it's also worth mentioning, the more planets that you have on your South Node, the more difficult and the more challenging it can be for you to really push past your comfort zone. Her living in this South Node energy could even deal with her being someone where even in her romantic life, she feels compelled to be in relationships and, jumping from one partner to the next, when once again, she's supposed to stand alone. She's supposed to be someone where if she wants to engage in one night stand, she can. That Aries North Node is very instinctual, or maybe instinctive is the proper word. But, they can also be very primal in a lot of their urges. So these are people who have the right to fulfill their sexual desires with no strings attached. These are people who often need to learn how to tell other people no. And more than likely, it will bring about some conflict. And I even just intuitively get that this could especially apply to her family. She doesn't have to say yes to everything. It's okay to be the bad guy. These are people who fear being the bad guy or being the villain in someone else's story. So I really hope that she, at some point, gains the strength and the courage, which is another thing associated with that Aries North Node, courage to be true to herself, no matter what her age is, and no matter what that looks like to other people. It's also worth mentioning that Toni's sun at that 13th degree of Libra is opposing her Saturn at the 8th degree of Aries, which is another aspect that can point towards there being some level of fear, shame, guilt, and trepidation associated with her prioritizing her own needs first. So these are people, especially when you're talking about like that Saturn and Aries, people who have a lot of karma tied to their ability to really be self-driven and listening and tapping into those instincts. So it can just deal with where internally it can really make her uncomfortable, especially with her Saturn in retrograde and that number 8. The number 8 reinforces a lot of that Saturn energy. So the more that she denies these things, the more guilt she will feel. But it could also even deal with where it's going to delay, because of course Saturn delays, but it never denies. So it could even point to where she does have the potential to possibly develop some of these qualities as she ages. Also, her Pluto at that 21st degree of Virgo is opposing her Chiron at the 26th degree of Pisces, which can deal with her feeling like a slave or feeling like trapped in servitude. Her being someone who constantly has to serve and meet the needs of others, to the point where it's like she's robbed of her own willpower or robbed of her ability to make things happen, where she literally feels like a prisoner. I tend to see configurations like this, or configurations that are similar to this, in the charts of prostitutes. Obviously, I'm not trying to insinuate Toni Braxton is a prostitute. But the whole energy signature behind like exploiting yourself, or being pimped out in a certain regard, especially when we're talking about like the entertainment industry, because you can look at that Chiron and Pisces as even, the entertainment industry and her being pimped out in that respect. I think she's been drained and been stripped of a lot of her own personal power. Same thing with her Uranus and Virgo opposing her Chiron. These are people who can help other people and they spend a lot of their time helping other people, but they don't possess the ability to actually help themselves. Same thing with her Jupiter forming her quincunx, or forming a quincunx to her Chiron in Pisces. That's her having a lot of her freedom, a lot of her sexuality being stripped, or there being a lot of conflict in regards to the way that she's able to express these things. That could also even deal with her son, because I know one of her sons is autistic. So this is the aspect that could even bring about health issues with children. But, as it pertains to this particular issue and the headline, she has a lot of indicators in her chart of her grappling with, expressing herself in a way that is authentic to her. So moving on, I wanted to also talk about Meg the Stallion. Now, I've done several comprehensive natal chart readings on Meg, but so I won't make this a long thing, but I wanted to really talk about the most recent headline following her performance. It was some type of live stream performance. I believe it was her first performance post the whole Tory Lanez getting shot in the foot incident. And although she did get a lot of support, I read a lot of rave reviews and positive reactions to the show, I couldn't help but notice that there was a certain level of controversy due to people being assholes per usual and feeling the need to comment about her weight. People noticed that she was a little thicker than what she normally is. Although in my opinion, Meg Thee Stallion has always been a thick chick. She's never been a little girl. She's always been a relatively big girl. Not big and fat, but big in like height, stature. She's a thick chick. She's just a bigger girl. So I'm not really sure like why people are making a spectacle out of this now, but like I said, she looked a little bit more fluffier than she normally does. And I mean, it didn't look bad once again, in my opinion, but people were just being very rude. And I really don't expect anything different from the internet, but like calling her or comparing her to Lizzo and saying that she's getting fat and she needs to go on a diet, and really just dissecting this lady's physical appearance. And I just wanted to speak to just the astrological factors that could support a lot of Meg's physical makeup and why she will never be a string bean skinny chick, and why maybe those who are very critical of her appearance should just probably shut the fuck up and focus on themselves, okay? So Meg Thee Stallion, of course, once again, born February 15th, 1995. She's Aquarius, and I know a lot of people may not know this, but Aquariuses can be big people, okay? Aquarius is one of those signs that can create a very large person. But these are big people who could be big all over. Like they can be big and tall and have a lot of their weight evenly distributed. So I thought that was, important to point out, okay? So that's one component of it. Meg also has her Jupiter at the 12th degree of Sagittarius, which, Sagittarius, Jupiter, that energy can create a very large person depending on how it's aspected. Now, I do not have her exact time of birth, but I would not be surprised if she had an ascendant to where her Jupiter could be aspecting it, maybe making an opposition. So maybe, I don't know, she doesn't really look like a Gemini ascendant, but, it could be squaring. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she was perhaps a Pisces ascendant or something like that. So it could be squaring, it could be opposing, or it could be making some other negative aspect to her ascendant. It could be conjunct her ascendant. Maybe she's a Sagittarius ascendant. I actually kind of get that as well. So, that's important to keep in mind. But more importantly, or most importantly, I would say the fact that she's a Taurus South Node, it really just kind of brings home a lot of these qualities in terms of making her someone who is naturally predisposed towards gaining weight. A lot of Taurus South Nodes can be very thick. They can be very stocky, like the bull. Taurus is symbolized by the bull. So these are people who can put on lots of weight. But I tend to find that a lot of Taurus South Nodes, especially women, look good. Like, these are people who can gain a lot of weight and carry the weight well and still be very aesthetically attractive. You know what I mean? These are also people who like food and they can comfort themselves with food, which obviously go hand in hand with weight gain, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if Meg is the type of person like, I'm making money, I'm living good, so I'm going to eat good. And that's okay. But she's naturally going to be someone who is just a very stocky woman, or a very statuesque woman. And with her South Node at the 9th degree, I wouldn't be surprised if she was even an emotional eater. Okay, so, or an impulsive eater. But nonetheless, like I said, I don't see an issue with the way she looks ever. As long as them knees is working, and as long as she's happy with it, most importantly, everybody could just find a seat and just have one, okay? So this concludes my video. You guys drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this reading in terms of Megan's chart, her placements, Toni Braxton, her chart, her placements. What did you think of these stories? And yeah, just sound off in the comment section below. Make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And until the next video, I holla.